Hey everyone, back from the Gathering 6 in Charlotte, North Carolina at the Charlotte University Place Hilton on the boardwalk. Again this year. This is a bit of a different vlog. I have never been one to put over the actual conventions, events, shows, meet and greets, whatever you want to call it, that I've attended or what have you. NWA Fan Fest was always a different animal. I did plenty of blogs on those. I did preview blogs, I did recap blogs, everything. I mean, they're all still available. That was back when the blog was really big, and people loved them. Greg always put on a good show. And even though he's not associated with the Gathering, it's Marty D'Amato. It definitely is a spiritual successor. A lot of the smaller conventions, and I've been doing conventions for 21 years. I've been doing the meet and greets 37 years, 1988. I was a wee lad then. Just some of the smaller conventions, and I'm not going to say all of them, I'm not going to any names, but some of the smaller ones, you'd be happy with what you got signed, what you took away, what you got signed, the photos you took, the interactions you had, maybe a story, a funny story. And I can't be the only one who, with all that great stuff, always had a little, not always, but often had a little asterisk in their mind next to it, yeah, I just got suckered into a cash grab. And again, I got a lot of things I wanted done for this hobby, for my collection, had fun with friends, whatever. But some of them just felt that feeling. Just not that you got rooked, just that it is what it is. And NWA Fan Fest and the Gathering, again, different animal. I'm probably going to say that a million times. A lot of people look at the Gathering as they call it their family reunion. They reconnect with people they see once a year for another cliche dream weekend, but it truly is. I mean, you see people of all ages meeting these legends, and there are some current indie or recently released from the big guys stars that do these shows. But these kids, there's kids there. They want to see the legends. Keem and Slick were there. There was a little girl with her father. She was probably 10 years old. She knew who they were. I mean, I believe it because that's when wrestling interested me too, that era. But, don't ever let anybody tell you the kids don't know the legends. But, I mean, it is just truly a great time. And I'm not paid to say this. I'm a paying customer. But, the D'Amato family, Marty D'Amato is the promoter, and his family is who runs the show with him. And they don't, you're paying money. You are paying money. You're paying good money, but it's fair. It's very fair costs. I'll talk a little bit more about that. And, it's not like, they're not like sitting there treating you like a paying customer. They're just treating you like their family. They learn your name. They did photos with people. I mean, they did like big group photos with everybody. It's just a nice atmosphere. It really is. And the Charlotte University Place Hilton is a really nice hotel. It's been completely redone. I started going there 21 years ago. They've really updated it, and it looks great. It's on a man-made lake with the boardwalk, and there's all kind of restaurants and places. It's a really nice area. I love Charlotte. But the main thing is the wrestling, and there's more to it than just autographs and photos. There's wrestling matches, there's Q&As, there's just all kinds of activities. So, if it's something you're interested in, tmarkpromotions.com. And it's coming back next year, July 22nd, it starts next year. So, Extreme Heat, the Gathering 7. But this year was the Gathering 6. And, I did see some pictures online. Online. Who says online anymore? Everything's online. Online was what we said in like 1995. But I did see some photos, people. It seems like recently with wrestling conventions, it's, you see they focus on like somebody looking disabled or bad or whatever. And I guess that's always been the thing, paparazzi catching people. Oh, look, this 95-year-old actor looks terrible. Yeah, no shit. But what caught my eye was people posting pictures of the great Muta, because he was walking with a walker and he was in his full gimmick. And the true story is that he had another surgery. His knees have been bad for years. I first met him 12, 13 years ago, and he was coming over here. He actually worked a match as well. He was taking bookings over here because the story was he had his surgeries over here for his knees. So, he's probably doing that again. But he just had his match, a year and a half? Last match a year and a half ago, I think. I think it was last year, maybe it was the year before. But, people are like, oh, he's, crippled. And I'm sure he's not going to run a marathon anymore, but I don't believe he's crippled. But again, that's sensationalism. That's how it rolls. But Muta was one of the highlights for sure for everyone. We had 3 huge Japanese legends, Japanese names this year. Great Muta, Tatsumi Fujinami, and the Great Sasuke. And we'll talk more about the Great. I think the Great Sasuke ended up being my favorite of the 3 to meet. We'll talk more about him in a future one, probably in a Palace Stuff video, because I want to throw some stuff in there. But I did, in fact, go for the Great Muta. And initially, I was just going to get some stuff signed. But when he was doing his photos in the photo room, I happened to be walking in, and I don't remember why. Maybe it was just to see how it was going. I don't know. There could have been another photo going on. There's a million things going on. You always have something to do. And one of my friends, one of my travel buddies, was in the room, in the line for the Great Muta, and I started talking to him, and we looked over, and we saw him. And I couldn't pass the photo up. I could not pass up the Great Muta in the complete gimmick, as it were. The gimmicks. I have a photo with him, as I mentioned. I met him earlier, years and years ago, and he was just in the ball cap and the goatee. And that's how he was signing things later. When he was signing, he was sitting with that, not in this outfit. But that's the kind of thing that you're going to get at the Gathering. I'm not going to say a show like the Gathering, because honestly, I don't know what other shows are like it anymore. There used to be more than one good wrestling convention, but I won't vouch for any of them anymore other than the Gathering at this point. But I did go for it and get the new Legends figure signed in the green paint pen to resemble the Mist, because this figure meant something to me, because it's really resembling, I think, his final year leading up to his retirement. But he was wearing a very, very similar outfit when I saw him wrestle live, as I mentioned, maybe a little over a decade ago. So I had to get that one done. And then I also happen to have a few extra of the Ultimates laying around. And I've never been a big proponent of getting the Ultimates signed. A lot of people do. Just because it's almost like, you have all the stuff there. I kind of like the figure more centered, like in the Legends. But how can you say no? When you pass things up at a convention, and this goes for any show. I mean, Lonnie Anderson did appearances, and suddenly she's gone. It broke as we were coming home last night from the show from Charlotte, and then you have the Hulkster. I had a ton of things for the Hulk that I hadn't yet to get signed, and and they're just not going to be signed now. Who knew he was going to go? You just don't know. You never know. I mean, I can pinpoint tons of times when somebody was announced for a wrestling convention, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have this and this. They don't make it to the convention. They pass away. You just never know. I think my top 3 conventions were the NWA Fan Fest in 2009. I had been gone from them for a while, so I made my personal grand return, and that was phenomenal. I mean, just everybody was there. And then the 2006 was my previous one for the Greg Price shows in Rockville, and that really kicked off the golden era of conventions, in my opinion, the golden era of wrestling conventions. I think I coined that timeline. I always say it's from 2006 in Rockville to about 2012, 2013. But for various reasons. But 2006 was incredible. There's a lot of pictures still float around from the Rockville convention. There's a picture of Sherry Cornette, Heenan, and is it Bockwinkel or Bear? Percy, I don't know, but it was right outside my room that night. They were in the bar. That hotel was incredible. So, this stuff, it's you just never know. I mean, look at all these guys that are gone. Then you have my third favorite was the Atlanta Fan Fest, which was the NWA Fan Fest. It was called the Georgia Wrestling Legends Fan Fest in 2011. And you had Dick Slater, Cora Combs, Pampero Firpo. They never did any other modern shows, ever, and they're gone. They didn't do any other ones. Firpo may have done one other one, but Dick Slater didn't. The High Spots company brought him out, and he was in a motorized wheelchair. Sad to say, he was fairly unrecognizable. If I displayed my photo, you'd say, yeah, I can see it, but he did not look like the Dick Slater we all remember. But he was there, he signed, it was, and that was it. So, you have to take that chance if it's something you want signed, if you want that memento of a picture. And there was another picture. There were quite a few amazing pictures, and I'm sure we'll be showing more of them. But there was another photo op that I had to take part in, because I've always been a Jive Soul bro. And I've met Slick many times, and I've met the gang many times. But I've never met Slick and the African Dream all at once. And there they are. That was fun. And Akeem did dance into the photo op. And I did take a few behind-the-scenes photos, and maybe I'll share those also. And yes, I am wearing an Akeem shirt. Don't ask me where I got it. I don't really care for that company, but that was something else. And then, again, like the Dick Slaters of the world in Atlanta and Cora Combs, every year it seems like, whether they're on the main ticket, which is the super ticket, which if you buy a VIP pass to get the gathering, you get autographs from 24 different names. Usually legends. Sometimes there's a few more modern ones, but not usually. And then there are vendor guests, where a vendor, an outside person that isn't the folks who run the gathering, the D'Amato family, will bring in a vendor guest. High Spots brought in Muta this year. Another company brought in Fujinami. Sometimes some wrestlers will bring in themselves. Sam Houston brings in himself. Jimmy Valiant's there every year. He brings in himself. And then sometimes you get the ones that, in my 21 years, it was 2004, 21 years of conventions in the South, even and in the North, someone I'd never met, and that was Nightmare Danny Davis, who of course was OVW for the longest time, and what a nice guy, what a great guy. And I didn't have anything in particular that I wanted signed. I was looking around for some programs or something, but I just grabbed a photo off of his table, and it came out real nice. I wanted the vintage photo. He had a lot of nice photos, though, and I said, in 21 years of doing these things, I've never met you. He's like, yeah, I don't leave the house much, but this guy got me out, so good for him. So it's those rare things. That's really why, everybody has a different reason to do it, but that's why I do it. I mean, they aren't making any new legends, and that's a Jim Cornette line, but it is true. So when I get the chance to meet one that I've never met before, I go for it. There was another name that I was really, quite a few, but there was another name that really impressed me who was a first-time meet. But I have that story saved for another vlog that we'll do about a specific item that I had that individual sign. So we'll talk about that separately. But also in the gathering, you always get your money's worth. Things happen with any convention. There are cancellations at the last minute. It's just the nature of the beast. Can you imagine gathering all these people of varying ages and different locales and different points in their career? You see these pop culture celebrity conventions now, and they'll have someone cancel a week before because they've got a movie project or a TV project and they can't do the convention. There's always an out for that in the contracts. Well, with wrestlers, it's usually health, or with the legends, it's usually health. And Rockin' Robin, who we all love, I love Rockin' Robin. She's a wonderful lady. She was another one at the Rockville Fan Fest. I've met her many times since. She announced that the Gathering 6, was going to be her final wrestling convention appearance ever. I've heard them say that before. She is very private, so I would tend to believe this is true. If Marty's saying it, again, he's the promoter, I would believe it. I believe it too. She was going to release her, well, I don't know if she's releasing her book there, but she was certainly going to have them for sale, sign them, and this was going to be her final appearance. We found out when we got to the gathering that she broke her leg and could not fly. Her final appearance will now be at next year's gathering, Gathering 7, called Extreme Heat, starting on July 22nd of 2026, so check out Team Art Promotions for that. She's not doing any conventions until then, and that will be her final appearance. But she was on the super ticket, which means that there were 23 guests until 24 guests. I'm a math genius. I figure these things out real fast. So Marty does not like to disappoint. He's not going to say, well, sorry, I tried. You're only getting 23 people on the 24-person super ticket. That's it. He's never done that. So, as I mentioned vendor guests before, Marty himself brings in a few vendor guests also, which are people that aren't on the super ticket, but you can meet independently of that. One of those was Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Jim Duggan has been around conventions for years. I mean, I've met him over 20 years ago at indie shows. He's been around forever. But he is one of the names that everybody knows, and he's one that's still able to do them, thank God. And like everybody else at most shows, if you get him in a Comic-Con or one of the pop culture celebrity conventions, his prices have gone up like everyone else's have in recent years, and it's usually the promoter. Hacksaw is a great guy. He's not the greedy type, so I would never blame him. Marty was bringing him in, and at a very reasonable price. I mean, extremely reasonable for being in 2025. Marty also, Hacksaw being Hacksaw, I'm sure knew that he would get a lot of business because Hacksaw has a ton of merchandise. I mean, he's got new figures coming out next year, but he has so much from the past. You know that. 2x4s. Marty was selling the little 2x4s to get signed, and there's just endless stuff for Hacksaw. So, in turn, that would mean a lot of money being brought in, bringing him in as a vendor guest. But what did Marty do? He knew that since Rockin' Robin couldn't be there, he threw Hacksaw on the super ticket. That meant that all of us who had the super ticket, the VIP pass, got Hacksaw included. I was pleased because I had some promo photos for him, original promo photos for Hacksaw. So I was more than pleased. That more than made up for Rockin' Robin, who I am excited to see in her final appearance. The Canadian Hacksaw promo, he loves this. He doesn't like the Vince Russo story behind it, but he gets a kick out of everything. We love Hacksaw. So that's a brief recap of the gathering. I mean, I couldn't even begin to start talking about it. So I am going to do a few more videos about some individual items that I picked up, some meets, and even some autographs that I added on certain items that I think you'll get a kick out of. So I'm exhausted still, but I wanted to talk to everyone about what a great time the gathering is. And now that I'm in the JW's vlog era, I can see me doing it more often. Maybe we'll do a gathering tradition. And I want to thank everyone who I talked to at the gathering. I can't even begin to recall everyone, of course. Shout out to Brian, if you're watching, Mr. Kranz, Mr. DJ, my buddies, my travel partners, my brothers, the Charlotte Four. You're out there. I know you're watching. No, you aren't. But and also everybody that I spoke to, Wrestler Weekly, finally got to meet. Great guy. We talked Crockett. So glad we got to talk. Pro Wrestling Mini Museum, Mike Parker. He's on YouTube also. Look him up. We talked. We kind of compared notes, talking about projects, autograph projects, great stuff. Just everyone. And I'm going to do more shout outs as we go on. It's such a great time. If you were watching this and you've never done one of these, I often say, and I'm mistaken, because I say this so often, that if you didn't start meeting the legends 20 years ago, 15 years ago, even 10 years ago, that you missed out. You missed out on some. I'll admit that. But I'm also going to admit that me saying that as a blanket statement is completely wrong. because there are still plenty of great legends to meet, make memories with, and you're going to do that at the Gathering. Come next year and stay tuned for more tales from the Gathering 6 in the weeks to come.